So, the first is about, dropping the attitude of being entirely unwilling to suffer. Meaning that, trying to lessen our too much fear or too much. Is it going okay?
Oh, that's why.
Oh, this is for your hearing. Here, come nearer. Put it nearer. Not working? Battery?
That's vanished without battery.
Okay, så vill jag
I'm sorry, but I think it has to lie like
Okay,
that.
okay, no problem.
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it, okay. Okay. I'm not touching it. So, think about all the depression, anxiety. I'm reading. Think about all the depression, anxiety, and irritation we put ourselves through by always seeing suffering as unfavorable, something to be avoided at all costs. Now think about two things: how useless this is and how much trouble it causes. Go on reflecting on this repeatedly until you are absolutely convinced. What you are saying here is that if I have too much aversion or too much fear or too much, I don't want to suffer. I very, very strongly kind of don't have anything that I don't want. The more strongly I have fear and I have anxiety. Anxiety is that, no? Anxiety is what? Fear of suffering, Something bad will happen to me. And then very, very strong fear of not wanting that, or strong fear of having that will be, that I don't like. That brings the anxiety. So, more I have that, fear, I suffer more, usually what happens is we worry a lot. We worry a lot. Something might happen, this might happen, that might happen, or this might not happen, that might not happen. And then we are worried, and we spend so much energy and time on worrying about things that could be a problem. But does that help? Anybody think that because I worry, anybody thinks that this thing didn't happen because I worried enough? I did a good job of worrying, so this thing never... It doesn't help at all, no? It only gives me trouble and pain and, but we do it anyway, we keep on doing. So therefore, we need to think that this does not help us. Of course, if it happens, it is not nice. It is painful. It's bad for me or bad for others, whatever. I don't like that. It's not good. But by worrying, I cannot stop that happening. I can try many other things to make it stop, but not worrying can help. And most of the time, this thing that I worry never happen. Yeah? Then what happens? All this worry totally for no use, for no reason. I worried completely, and worry means suffering. I suffered for completely unnecessarily. If it happens, what I worry for, I have to go through it anyway. It's not that I worried enough so that when I go through it, it's less problem. It's much lighter because I was enough worried. No, it's not like that. So therefore, I have to go through the same way, same problem, same pain, same whether I worried or I didn't worry. So then we can see that worry didn't do any good. And if I can convince myself, if I can clearly understand this and remind myself that worrying is totally useless, it is no need, no use, it doesn't help in any way, because if it happens, I have to go through it. And when I go through it, it may not be nice, but I have to go through it anyway, because and worrying doesn't help there, worrying doesn't help stop this, but most of the time also this doesn't happen. So there's no need to worry. If I can do like that, if I don't worry, then while I'm worrying, the time and energy I've spent on worrying, if I can do something that might actually help to change this, to have something good, or to prevent something happen that might be good for me. Not necessarily that particular thing, but if I can do something more positive, more useful, more productive, that might actually be much more useful and effective in helping myself and others. So if I see this, then I need to learn, I need to exercise, I need to train to let go of the worry. Because when I go through something, I have to go through it, whether I like it or I don't like it. So most of our pain or suffering or problem or whether it's kind of mental, what can you say, disturbance is coming from worrying about the future. Then we have lots of other disturbance coming from the past. Like, this thing happened, somebody did this, somebody said this, I had to go through this, I had to, have this problem, that problem of the past. And most of us have lots of unhappiness, anger, and sadness of those things. Of sufferings from what happened in the past. Now again, those things happened in the past. if if I'm angry about that, if I'm sad about that, if I am unhappy about that, if I allow my mind to be disturbed by those things, does it help me? Actually, I'm suffering. What I am doing is the past is past. Past is gone. We cannot bring past to the present. No, past happened. Yesterday is yesterday. If I want to bring back yesterday, can I bring back yesterday? Only in scientific fictions you can go into this yesterday. But I cannot go into yesterday except in my memory. So yesterday is gone. But we go through the same problem, same suffering again and again and again. And then that same problem, or what I see as problem or suffering or pain, I experience again and again and again. And it can be extremely depressing. Most of the depressing can come from there, because my mind is locked into that. I have this problem happened, somebody did this thing did happen, I become a kind of a victim, all these kind of things, you hold on. And as long as you hold on, you suffer from there. So I don't want to suffer, as we discussed. I don't want to suffer. But I don't want to let it go also. Or it's not that I don't want to let it go, but I can't let it go because I don't allow the past to be past. I don't know how to let the past be past. So this is also very important, because if I try to tell myself, I try to convince myself that what happened yesterday, what happened last year, what happened when I was young, what happened when I was a child, is all gone. It's all past. It's all gone. What happened yesterday and what happened in the last night's dream is almost the same. It is only in my memory. Everything is changed. But I don't see it like that. I don't see last night's dream, I can let go. Even if I had the most traumatic dream, when I wake up, I say, oh, it was a dream. Thank God, finished. I don't suffer from that again and again and again. Yeah? In my dream last night, if somebody here, if I dreamed of somebody here doing something or saying something that is not what I like, today I wouldn't have any problem with that person because I know that it is gone, it's true, it doesn't matter. But yesterday, if somebody did something, I feel very today also, because I say it's very, it's true, it's there. So therefore, so if it is gone, I need to let it go. Not because, again, this is I think very important. Sometimes we think, actually lots of people think, and lots of people have this kind of theory also, that we should not forget. If somebody did something wrong to me, I should not forget. Yes, he did that thing to me. Now I have to do something better. Some people think like that. Some people even don't want to do something directly harmful, but I have to keep it. I have to, hold on. But by doing that, it's not helping me. Maybe that person, what other people did or person did was very wrong. Was very wrong. Could be very wrong. Could be very bad. But even if that's very bad, by me suffering myself because of that is not doing any good to myself or any others. So it's much better for me and better for everybody that I can not hold on to that suffering. If I stop doing that, if I say, if I remember or not, that's another matter. I don't need to forget. But I say, I don't want to hold on to that feeling anymore. I need to let this, whatever problem, difficulty, suffering, sadness, pain, disturbance, I need to let go. That is called forgiveness. Forgiveness is that I refuse to keep on suffering because of something that happened in the past. That is called forgiveness. So if I can do these two things, past and present, future, actually I can bring lots of peace to my mind. I can bring lots of peace to my mind. That will make my mind very much, peaceful, undisturbed, and undisturbable. Because everything is about past and future. We think this is present. Today is present. But actually, there is nothing called present. Where is the present? This moment, gone. This moment, gone. This moment, gone. There is nothing called present. So, only thing we have is in our mind of the past and the future. And so therefore, both are only in our mind, not in the present moment. So most of our suffering is suffering completely unnecessarily and uselessly because we suffer because of thinking about the past or worrying about the future. These two things. Yeah? So therefore, then say to yourself, from now on, whatever I have to suffer, I will never become anxious or irritated. Go over this again and again in your mind and summon all your courage and determination. First, let's look at how useless it is. If we can do something to solve a problem, then there is no need to worry or be unhappy about it. If we cannot, then it doesn't help to worry or be unhappy about it either. This is a quotation from Bodhicaya Avatara. It is said, "Kazi jusi yunane tela megasi jiyu, kazi jusi menane tela megasi jipen." This stanza. If I can change it, if I can do something about it, then there is no need to be unhappy about it. If there is nothing I can do, then there is no use being unhappy about it. This can be about anger, about worry, about anything, If something is happening, something that I don't like, or something might happen, and I'm worried about it. And then I should think, is this something that I can do something and stop or prevent from happening? So if I see that there is something I can do about this, then I should start to do that, whatever that is. And no need to worry, because I can do something about it. If I feel that there is nothing I can do, it might happen. And if it happens, there's nothing I can do to stop it happen, because it's not in my hands. Like if it is raining, I cannot and change. So then there is no use, it might rain. So if it rains, it rains. I should take it some umbrella. Isn't it? The umbrella is then something I can do. And that's something I can do. I don't need to, I don't, sometimes people, it might rain, but I don't have an umbrella. Some people do that, They don't prepare an umbrella, but they are really looking at, it might be really serious weather, And then you go out, it rains, and you're drenched. And then you say, yesterday this is a very bad rain, and I was totally drenched, and I had such a difficult time, and now I have a cold, and but you knew it might be raining, so why didn't you take the umbrella? Many people do that also, including myself. But in Sikkim, I used to be very good at this. Whenever I was going anywhere, but that was everybody, not only me. My one hand goes to the umbrella, one hand goes to my bag, It's I don't have to think. The umbrella doesn't have that much, because the rain is very strong. In Sikkim, the rain is like pouring. But at least this much, up this up, it's dry, kind of, almost. It helps a little bit. Anyway, that's and then it's okay. So, but these things, whether it's about worrying, whether it's about the past, whether, as I said earlier also, problems can happen, and difficulties can happen, pain can happen, anything can happen. And that's, that's feeling too painful, too unhappy about that is not useful, If I have to go through it, I have to go through it. So no use worrying about too much. And also, something which is, I think, very important is to understand that, everybody has to get sick, has to grow old, has to die. Yeah? There's nobody who would not die. Isn't it? I will die. I'm sure. Yeah, are you sure you are going to die? We have no doubt, no? because everybody so far, I don't know how long humanity was there on this earth, but it was a long time. And everybody died. There's nobody left who is more than 100 and certain years old. So everybody died in the past, and everybody is going to die in the future. So I have no doubt, nobody has any doubt that we are going to die or not, we are going to die. I think it's good to understand this and accept this, Sometimes, I don't like this when people are too much protective about this kind of information to the children and to the, I think it makes people tougher if we face this and understand these realities of life. If we know the realities of life, we become like flowers in the jungle. We become tougher. If we are not prepared, we are not, we are too much protected, we become like, flowers in the pot, become too delicate, Therefore, I think it is good that we can face what, the realities, to see the realities of the life. I myself, I feel that, I have learned a lot about the realities of the life through folk tales, In olden days, people used to tell lots of folk tales, stories from the past, like stories about animals, stories about, lots of folk tales of each country we have lots of things in Tibet also, lots of everybody has. And these folk tales give us a really strong, education about life, They tell you about life, about death, about, different kind of people. Some people are good, some people are not good. Some people, do lots of terrible things. Some people, cheat you. Some people, it's not all, nicey things, When a child is born, a crane will not bring the child, The child will go through a process which is not so easy. Things like that, if you know clearly, I think it makes you to see the life much more directly. It's not pleasant in the past, in the beginning, I think. It's not nice to see the world. There's lots of trouble, there's lots of pain, lots of problem, lots of difficulties. It's not so nice, but actually it makes you more strong, more prepared. So therefore, to clearly see this, and then there's lots of problems in the world. There's lots of suffering, There's lots of suffering in the world, and that also very good to not. That's something. It's what is a fact is a fact. You have to know. There are good people. There are not so good people. There are kind people. There are not kind people. All kind of people are there. Every different kind of things happen to the people. Some places it's they are striving. Some people they are all kind of. There are lots of violence. There's war. There's all kind of sufferings. It's good to know that, because then you feel that this is how things are, and all these problems are there also, The more you see this, you are not totally shocked by seeing something problematic, Many times I see that people, when they see the television or things like that, many people told me that they cannot too much think about compassion because they get so unhappy, so depressed because they see too much suffering and too much pain and too much problem, and they get. But if you know that these sufferings are there, then you become a little bit more, you can see, you can face it more easily. So when you understand this, that I can die anytime, I can get sick, all these problems can happen anytime, can happen. And so therefore, now it's not happening to me. So I must be quite happy. I must be, I must be happy. I must feel very happy because I'm not sick. Many times what people think is, when I'm not sick, that's no problem, that's nothing, That's taken for granted, Well, I'm not sick, but that's normal. Why should I be sick, I have no headache, that's normal. I have no headache, that's okay. But I don't have a golden car. That's very bad. I can't be happy because I don't have a golden car. I need a golden car. If I don't have a golden car, then how can I be happy without a golden car? Most of the time we are thinking like that. Only when I have a pain, like I have a headache, then headache, so bad, How nice it was when I didn't have headache. Only I appreciate the time when I had no headache, when I have headache only. I don't appreciate it when I have no headache. Yeah? And this is not good, We should appreciate having no pain when I have no pain. If you think about how nice it was when you had no headache, when you are having headache, makes you headache more bad, Now I have headache, If I don't have headache, then I will be so happy. But when you have no headache, you forget about it. Yeah? So therefore, when we are, how we think, how I am is how we think. And how we, it's not how things are. It's not about how things are. It's about how I think. When I first came to the West, I really genuinely thought the people here are like in heaven. There should not be any problem. People should be all happy and all satisfied and so all, completely joyful because everything is there and there's no problem. I thought it like that. And when first people came, because I came in winter, people go depressed. I felt like, what is this? The complaints they were making were so small, Some of them were really so tiny problems, to my way of thinking that time, that I could hardly stop myself laughing. That's not a problem, like things like that, No. But then I had to learn that that's a big problem. If you think it's a big problem, it's a big problem. I told this many times, but I was totally shocked. I think it was around the first time I came. One professor came, very highly educated professor, a professor, with PhD and all kind of things. And he came and he said, "I think I'm going to commit suicide." I said, "What's wrong with you?" He said, "Well, the university promised that they will send me for a conference in America last year, and they didn't send me. And this year also they are not going to send me. I think I'll die." I was so shocked, Your life is not worth, you have to kill yourself because you are not going to America, that also not for whole time, just for a conference, few days, America might be very nice, but, I don't die for it, If you die, then you don't go to America anyway. I didn't understand, what is this man talking about? I said to him, "Can't you go yourself to America?" He said, "Yes, why not?" "Then why don't you go?" He said, "No, it's not Sam, it's my prestige." Yeah, but if you die, then where is your prestige? Anyway, he didn't die, but maybe he was telling a joke, I don't know what, but it seemed quite serious he was thinking about. So people like this, like when you take something too seriously, it becomes too serious. Even making it, going for a short trip to America is worth, is more important than your life. What is this? But things can happen if you allow your mind to focus on small problems as so important, so big. So therefore, how happy you are, how peaceful you are, how much you are disturbed, how sad you are, how anxious you are, all these, how much suffering you have, is not what things are, how things are happening. It's about how you react, I think it's very important, it's very clear about this. So therefore, if I don't look after myself, if I don't check my mind, if I don't transform my way of thinking and reacting, I could actually do lots of damage for myself and go through lots of suffering for myself for completely no reason, no use. I think it's very important to understand this, how I am, how I feel, somebody is there in my family, in my, work, in my community, not very nice, Now, that can really completely disturb me, or it can disturb me a little less. How? The way I am. The way I am. It's not to say that I should not try to change the situation. We should all try to change the situation as much as we can. Of course we should, Sometimes, when we talk about this, in this kind of teachings, that we should work on ourselves. And then people sometimes misunderstand that we should only do that and not do anything about the situation. That's not at all what it is saying. Whatever we could, we should do. Like if there is something happening, something happening, like these days, ecology is a big issue. Thank God nowadays people are becoming more aware of the environment. It's very good. It's very good. People are becoming more aware of environment and, really people want to do something about it, or, people are worried about that and things like that. It's a very good thing. But then again, if you just worry only and become totally paranoid, and only only worried and panicky, then that doesn't work. We should be worried in a way, not worried in the sense of just suffering from that. We should be aware, and then what can I do? What I can do to make, from my side, make things a little bit better. Make things a little bit better. Anything I can do, I should try to do at my best, at my level best. And then, there's no use worrying. Maybe the world will disappear tomorrow. The world will not disappear, but humanity might disappear tomorrow. If it disappears, what can I do? Let me die laughingly. Yeah? What can I do? I am panicking now, doesn't help. Whatever I can do, I must do. Whatever anybody can do together, we must do. I think this is very important, We should try to do anything. It's not only about environment, about anything. If there's something that I can do to help, to change myself, start to change from myself. Most of the problems in this world are actually created by a small number of people, a very intelligent and very clever group of people called humanities. They are so clever that they have tried everything to destroy themselves and others. No? Who else made bombs to destroy the whole world so many times again, That's that much clever we are. Very intelligent. We are like that, We are very clever. Now, but we are not why we do these things? Not because we are not clever, because we allow our negative emotions to take over. Yeah? We have created so much suffering, all through the history, through wars. Yeah? Through wars. If I look into the history of humankind, I don't see anything else but a history of wars. Yeah? Most of the history is history of wars. And when there is wars, although in history it might be written as if, these people have won and these people have lost, and then the wars are kind of what we call very kind of aggrandized, what do you call it? Made it very glorified and things like that. But actually, nobody won. Both sides, so many people killed, so many people were lost, so much suffering happened, so much pain inflicted on each other. There's nothing glorious about wars. Total disaster. And why did we do these wars? Either because of anger and hatred, or because of greed, or because of jealousy, or because of pride, or because of misunderstanding, all because of our negative emotions, nothing else. And at the end, every war has to come to an end. And after war ends, they have to stay together as neighbors as before. It's not that after war is ended, you have totally got rid of one people that you don't like or that you hate. You stop hating each other, and then there is peace. All this killing, all this violence, all this suffering, completely useless, completely unnecessary. In the same way, everything that we did, these kind of things, it's been like this. It's coming from. Now, if you look at any trouble in the world, even ecological problems, it's all because of our negative emotions, our greed, our anger, our ignorance. Everybody wants to do the best for myself. And what I think is the best for myself is not really best for myself, if you look a little bit in the long term. So therefore, it's very important to try to look at a little bit like that and try to work on my own, because that's why I cannot change everybody's mind. I cannot change everybody's way of saying things. I can only change myself. If I can change myself for a little bit better, a little bit more peaceful, a little bit less destructive, a little bit more kind, and a little bit more, nicer and less destructive, I'm contributing to the world. Best contribution, best contribution for everything is trying to make myself better. And it's much nicer for myself. I feel nicer, I feel happier, and I don't have to feel guilty that I am happy myself. Why should I be not happy if I'm happy? If I'm happier, if I'm peaceful, if I'm, I should be very happy. This is very important. This You should allow yourself to be very happy. There's nothing to be guilty about that, you know. Anyway, so first let's look at how useless it is. Okay, so this we have already done. Then the enormous trouble involved. As long as we don't get anxious and irritated, then our strength of mind will enable us to bear even the hardest of sufferings easily. They'll feel as flimsy and unsubstantial as cotton wool. But while we are dominated by anxiety, even the tiniest problem becomes extremely difficult to cope with because we have the additional burden of mental discomfort and unhappiness. Imagine, for example, trying to get rid of desire and attachment for someone we find attractive while continue to dwell on their attractive qualities. It would be in vain. In just the same way, if we concentrate only on the pain brought by suffering, we will never be able to develop endurance or the ability to bear it. So as in the instructions called sealing the doors of the senses, don't latch onto all kinds of mind-made concepts about your suffering. Learn instead to leave the mind undistracted in its own natural state. Bring the mind home, rest there, and let it find its own ground. So this is, how to do. When we understand this, and then when we make ourselves clear, convinced, then we can use many different techniques on how to change our habits. But if we don't understand, then we will not use those techniques. We don't even want to use any of the techniques. So this first is to know that it is useless. Cultivating the attitude of being joyful when suffering arises. Now this is, maybe not so common, this kind of things. People don't think in this way usually. But this is something I think important. Seeing suffering as an ally to help us on the path, we must learn to develop a sense of joy when it arises. Yet whenever suffering strikes, unless we have some kind of a spiritual practice to bring to it, one which matches the capacity of our mind, no matter how many times we might say to ourselves, well, as long as I have got roughly the right method, I'll be able to use suffering and obtain such a benefit. It's highly unlikely that we will succeed. We will be so far from our goal. The saying goes, as the earth is from the sky. Therefore, use suffering as the basis for the following practices. Now how to bring the suffering onto the path. When we say that, then it's about, when we already mentioned this, when we have something like a suffering or a pain or problem, then we kind of say, now this is the time, this is the opportunity to transform this. This is the opportunity to use this to kind of, to train my way of, to change transforming my way of experiencing it. And therefore, instead of getting myself more unhappy and getting myself more kind of more down, it makes me more kind of more joyful, more meaningful. My life becomes more meaningful, and it helps to transform myself. And this is necessary. Any training you do, you need obstacles. You need what can you say? You need to go through problems, pain. Take the example, for instance. If I want to become, say, like Olympic medalist, yeah. If I have to become an Olympic medalist in, say, like running or something like that, do I not need somebody to train me? Yeah? And then that trainer will make me run, isn't it? The trainer will wake me up, I think, very early in the morning and make me run, and more, many kilometers, and then, yes, you should run. And, the more, more better, the more good the trainer is, the more it should give me, not, if the trainer says, okay, you can sleep after 8 o'clock, you don't need to go very far, you just run around this center a few times and then it's enough, then I'm never going to become, Olympic medalist, no? So in the same way, if you really want to transform ourselves, we need to get over, we need obstacles to, we need to, we need to, we need challenges. Yeah? We need challenges. And if we can go through, or if we can overcome these challenges, the more we can overcome the challenges, the more we are bringing this on the path, the more trained we become, more better we become. If there is no challenges, we cannot become better. No? So it's the same thing, So if I want to really free myself from suffering, if I free myself from, if I want to, really completely, transform myself, I need to go through lots of, challenges of pain, problems, suffering, all kind of difficulties, and only if I can transform them, then only I become really good at it. No? So therefore, these difficulties, problems, sufferings that comes in the way, I have to see as something like my trainer for Olympics tries to put through, They say it like this, obstacles only happen to true practitioners. There's no obstacles for people who are lazy in practice, because they don't do anything. So then there is nothing called challenges, So, there's, I have no obstacle because I'm sleeping all the time. No practice, no progress, no nothing. So, so therefore, this is like, then if you understand this, and then you see sufferings and problems, then you see it like, challenges, and then you actually see it as something, an opportunity. So you like it, You don't, and if you like it, it's not anymore a problem. It's something that you have to, go through, or kind of, you have to overcome, or you have to, you have to face and, train on. So that's called bringing it on the path. So now there are a few different trainings. 1. Using suffering to train in renunciation. Sometimes then use your suffering in order to train your mind in renunciation. Say to yourself, as long as I wander powerless and without any freedom in samsara, this kind of suffering is not something unjust or unwarranted. It's simply the very nature of samsara. At times, develop a deep sense of revulsion by thinking, if it is already so hard for me to bear even the little suffering and pain of the happy realms, then what about the suffering of the lower realms? Samsara is indeed an ocean of suffering, fathomless and without any end. Then turn your mind towards liberation and enlightenment. So when a suffering came, when a problem comes, when very, very difficult times come, then you have to think that, I have to learn a lesson from there, There are so hard, so big sufferings in this samsara. There is so much suffering in the samsara. And these sufferings in the samsara is going to continue to happen again and again and again, unless you free yourself from samsaric state of your mind. So this suffering I'm going through or I'm having is just one example. But this is not the end. It will happen again and again and again as long as I don't free myself from this samsaric state of mind. So therefore, this suffering is a reminder for me that I should really start to transform myself, start to work on myself, start to transform myself, start to work on my, negative emotions, work on how I react, work on how my habitual tendencies are, and completely transform my samsaric state of mind. If I see it like this, then that suffering has become a help to, to put myself on the path, to bring myself on renunciation. Renunciation, I must explain again, because I think most of you know this, but sometimes people misunderstand renunciation. They think that renunciation is to leave all your, to leave your family, your, house, home, job, sometimes your country, and go somewhere else. That's renunciation. That's not renunciation. That's just changing your place. Sometimes people think if you go into a monastery, then you have renunciation. That's sometimes even worse. Patu Rinpoche has said that that's like going from a small samsara to a big samsara. It depends, It depends. It's not about what you do and where you go. It's about your mind. And renunciation is that this samsaric state of my mind, this samsaric, what makes all these sufferings and pain and problem, samsaric state of being, is problem. So I really need to transform myself. I already talked about taking refuge as the renunciation, as helping myself, as compassion to myself. That's renunciation. Renunciation is compassion to yourself. The Karmapa was saying it very clearly. He said, renunciation is compassion to yourself. Bodhicitta is compassion to everybody. Yeah? So renunciation is that I need to transform, I need to change, I need to, really do something about this, the causes of sufferings that I am holding on to. I need to transform it. That is renunciation. So that suffering helps me to kind of bring to that way of experiencing, seeing things. Then the suffering has helped me. I have used the suffering as a path to, to renounce it, for renunciation, and then I've used the suffering on the path. I'm transformed. Second, using suffering to train in taking refuge. This we already kind of talked about. Say to yourself, life after life, again and again, we are continuously plagued by this kind of fear, and the one and only protection that can never fail us is the precious guide, the Buddha, the precious path, dharma, and the precious companion on the way, the Sangha, the three jewels. So it is on them that I must rely entirely. Whatever happens, I will never renounce them. Let this become a firm conviction and train in the practice of taking refuge. So I already described this in the beginning, so then I don't need to, re-say it again. The third, using suffering to overcome arrogance. As I explained before, as long as we are in samsara, we are never independent or truly free or in control of our lives. On the contrary, we are always dependent on and at the mercy of suffering. So we must eliminate the enemy that destroys anything that is wholesome and good, which is arrogance and pride. And we must do away with the evil attitude of belittling others and considering them as inferior. So when we have suffering, we should try to use that as, as a way to, bring more humility, and overcome our arrogance. Also, too much self-centeredness, because if you look deeply, what is really the cause or the source of our suffering is our, dualistic view that I hold on to me as, This, of course, it will come later on, so I don't need to talk about that. This is more about the ultimate truth. But this to bring humility, to understand the suffering of others, to understand that I'm like everybody else, somebody who wants to be, happy, who wants to get rid of suffering, but, this suffering reminds me that I am like everybody, so I need to wish everybody well. I need to, not only myself, but everybody, so therefore, use this as to overcome my too much arrogance and too much pride and too much, too much, what can you say, only me. Using suffering to purify harmful actions. This is fourth. Remind yourself and realize all this suffering which I am going through, and suffering which is greater still, all the boundless suffering that there is, come from nothing but harmful negative actions. Reflect carefully and thoroughly how. Karma is certain, cause and effect is infallible. 1. Karma multiplies enormously. So when you have suffering, then you need to say that, this problem, this suffering, this pain, difficulties come from, certain situations or actions or my own kind of negativity that I've created, and that's the result of this. Cause and effect, the karma. In short, karma is two things. One is our own actions. What we do with our body, speech, and mind, that's action, that's karma. And then what we do with our body, speech, and mind has its own reaction or result, its effect on myself. And that's also karma, as the result karma. And we usually, when we talk about karma, many times we refer to that. This is my karma. Means this is the effect of the action that I have been, it's not just one thing that I've done, but different things, everything that I am, like what I am this moment, what I'm going through this moment is because of everything that I did, that everything that happened to me, that everything that, throughout, not only one thing or two things, but everything that happened in this life, in my last life, in my life before. Now here, so this, at this moment, the way I am, the way I feel, is the end result. So my body now, at this moment, I call it the karmic body. The karmic, because this is the end result now. This is already happened, so I cannot change it. Now, what happens tomorrow? What happens next year? What happens ahead? What happens next life? It depends on my actions now. What will happen in the future for me is uncertain from many points, because it depends on me a lot, what I want to do, Tomorrow, I'm supposed to be here. Maybe I will be. Maybe not, If I decide in the middle of night, no, I don't want to be here. I want to go into the forest, or I want to, go back to India, I can go back. On Monday, I'm supposed to go to Sweden. Most probably I'll go there. But if I really want, I can go somewhere else also. Yeah? So, future is in my hands. Of course, I've made this program. I made my schedule, so I'm most likely to follow that schedule. But I could change it, like I was supposed to be there in Finland last few days. And then it has to be changed. So then I was in Berlin instead. Yeah? So like that, the future is like that. So therefore, my my action has its effect, So therefore, this is karma, and karma is very important, because if we don't understand karma, that what I do has an effect on my future, on how I am, on what I will be, how I will be, then, there is no basis for ethics. There is no basis for ethics. All the ethics is based on this understanding that I am responsible for what I do now has effect on my future, on, my actions has its effects. So therefore, I have to be responsible for my actions. That's the basis of all the, all the ethics. So therefore, if I want to be, helpful to myself, if I want to be doing something good for myself and other people in the future, I have to take care of my actions now. Because my actions has the effect on me and also on others. Yeah? So therefore the karma has cause and effect is infallible. And how I do, if I do something really negative with some very strong negative, intention or intense emotions, then it has more effect on me. It will, if I do something very positive and with my very positive, emotions, it has more effect on me. That's why, how I am, has lots of effect on me. You will never face the effect of something you have not done. How you will become is how you train yourself. What you do now, how you are, is going to become. How you are training yourself is going to. You are not going to become something that you never do now. You are not going to be good at something that you never train in. Yeah? So if you are very good at being upset and angry and, miserable, you will be very good at that. But if you train yourself to be more satisfied, more happy, more joyful, more generous, more kind, you will be more good at that. No? So this is something that we need to understand. Whether you have done will never go to waste. So whatever you are doing, whatever you are training at, that will become part of you. It will never go, waste. So when you understand this, then actions, so if you have sufferings, problems, difficulties, and if you feel, negative, then that's time you need to understand this. And this is the time, if I'm reacting in a very negative way, if I'm feeling very bad, very unhappy, very disturbed, then I don't need to train in that. I don't need to make it worse. I need to do something to transform this, to change this, to modify this, to transform this. So anything that is happening to me, to kind of get rid of my negative actions. Then say to yourself, so if I really don't want to suffer anymore, then I must give up the causes of suffering, which is negativity. With the help of 4 powers, make an effort to acknowledge and purify all the negative actions you have accumulated in the past, and then firmly resolve to avoid doing them in the future. This is where the purification is, understanding of purification is based on. In Buddhism, purification is based on understanding that this negativity is not you. Yeah. If you have negativity, whether it's a negative karma, whether it's negative emotions, if it's negative actions, that's not you. This is something that happens to you. That's something you do, but not you. So if you want to change, you can change. If you want to get rid of, you can get rid of. So therefore, trying to transform that, trying to get rid of that, trying to change your actions, your habits, your habitual tendencies, your emotions from negative to, that's purification. And to understand that you can transform, you can change, is purification, understanding of purification. So you can use as a purification. Use, this is another thing. This, I think, important to mention this. Sometimes when you say this, if you have suffering, you use it as a purification. Now this is important to understand. So if I have a suffering, if a problem happens, then I can say that may this suffering that I endure now be able to substitute or be able to purify all my negative karma. And not only my negative karma, but all other people's negative karma that they have done may also happen on this suffering, and I will purify them also together, not only mine, but others' negative karma also. If I can think like this, then that suffering that I go through becomes a kind of a useful thing for me, because I use it as a purification. I don't say, this suffering, why it's happening to me? It's not so bad. I should not have happened. Why I'm really angry with God who is giving me this suffering. Not like that. But I use this suffering as a purification. And if I use it as a purification, then I don't have so much aversion to it, because I'm using it as a means to become something good. So therefore, it has a purpose. So I feel a good purpose for this suffering. Yeah? Now this understanding, sometimes people have misused. I have information about this. Some people say that, we have to let them suffer. Because then they will purify. That's not the right thing to do. It's not necessary that if you suffer, then you purify. Sometimes, if you go through suffering, you create more suffering, because whether you purify or not depends on how you react to it. If you have a suffering, and then you say, I'm suffering, he's very angry, very upset, very negative emotions, more and more, then you create more negative actions than purifying. So therefore, it's not necessary that if you suffer, you get rid of your negative karma. Especially, other people. So therefore, it's very good if somebody is suffering, you help to relieve that suffering. It's not, if you are, some people even ask this question, if somebody is suffering and you are helping them to relieve this suffering, are you not preventing them from purifying their negative karma? Are you not harming them? Not at all, because they are not necessarily purifying. If they take it as purification, then it will be purifying, but if you help them, it's purify them more quickly because they will less suffering. Yeah? So it's very important to understand this. Because one time I heard that one time in a Buddhist center, I heard that there was some people living, only a few people, and there was one person who was a wheelchair person, and he at night could not get into the house, and he was he was outside falling, and then he was very cold and very and he was calling for help. And nobody opened the door and helped him because they thought they were helping him to purify his negative karma. These are so useless Buddhists, This kind of misunderstanding sometimes there, and this is very important. It's not like that. It should not be like that, This is just for our own, it's a way of using this suffering to purify ourselves, but not to impose on others at all. Yeah? This is very important to understand. Then, using suffering to train in compassion. Say to yourself, just like me, others too are tormented by similar suffering, or even much worse. Train yourself by thinking if only they could be free from all this suffering, how wonderful it would be. This will also help you to understand how to practice loving kindness, where the focus of the practice is those who have no happiness. So this is these are the how to use it as to train in compassion, because then when you see suffering in yourself, then you know that how difficult it is, how bad it is, the suffering, how much painful and problematic suffering is. So when you feel bad about this suffering, you also understand that everybody else who is suffering are also feeling like this. So as much as I don't want suffering, everybody else would also not want suffering. So not only that I wish to get myself free from suffering, but I should also try to do something, try to work towards getting rid of suffering of others also. So I should make a commitment, I should make a determination, I should make a kind of a resolution that I will not only end my own suffering and work, free myself from that, but I will also try to free everybody else's suffering as well. So when you do that, then you are actually working on your own compassion. Then I think I'll stop here because there's next chapter or next thing is a little bit long. Using suffering to cherish other more than yourself. So I'll stop here, and any questions? There's one.
So this topic you're talking about, I'm thinking about the method Tonglen, but you don't mention that method. Could you comment on the relationship of this method Tonglen connected with your topic of your here?
Yes, Tonglen you can use, but at the moment we are, we are not. Tonglen is one method. One method. This is kind of background of Tonglen. Yeah.
Aspiration.
background, like understanding, working towards Tonglen. Tonglen is one method. Tonglen, yes, is a good practice. And Tonglen is basically, working on, on aversion and attachment. Actually, it's working basically on our aversion and attachment. And it's a meditation.
Yes, it's an aspiration. It's not. You also talk about the action.
Yeah, it's a meditation. Tonglen is a meditation. Yeah, Tonglen is a meditation, and this meditation of Tonglen is to take on, to dare, or to have the courage, or to visualize, you can say if you like, that everybody is suffering in pain, in dark kind of clouds you take in. And then all nice things, all wonderful peace, joy, well-being, all these positive things you dare to give to others. You give it to others in your meditation. It's a meditation, yeah? And this exercise of meditation does two things. One is that you resist. Usually, I don't want anything bad. I don't want anything bad. Yeah, that's our way. But here, you are taking in, you are bringing in voluntarily bad things of others, which is totally opposite of our usual habit. Yeah? So we are trying to change that habit and change that resistance or aversion to negative things. And usually we don't want to let go of anything good, My happiness, my joy, my well-being, I don't want to let it out. I want to keep it. Here, in this meditation, you must very clearly say meditation. You are giving it. So at least in your meditation, you are giving it. So therefore, you are trying to change your habitual tendency of not wanting the good things to give. You want to hold on to good things. Here you are. So you are directly working on aversion and attachment. Yeah? And you are doing this exercise with all other beings. So therefore, you are actually working on your compassion. Yeah? You are not saying, oh, poor people, I want to be... You are not saying, oh, this suffering, they're suffering, I don't like all this suffering. You are not saying that. You are just doing it. And that's a good way of doing it. They found out, they have done lots of research recently in Europe, actually, about compassion. And they found out that empathy, empathy sometimes gives, what is the word?
Stress.
Not only stress, depression. Empathy gives depression and burnt out. Because you kind of feel too much, suffering, these people suffer. If you, with this kind of empathy, you see any suffering and you feel yourself that suffering. And then you kind of really, that doesn't help the person there. You become more more sensitive, and you suffer. So you become depressed. You sometimes become also, what can you say, burnt out. We don't need that kind of too much compassion. We need action compassion. They said that if you when you see suffering of others, then you can do two things. One is that you feel that suffering yourself too much. You feel too painful. Sometimes so painful that you are overwhelmed by that pain. Then it's not useful. You have to, when you see suffering, then you say, you don't need to become too emotional. You need to say, this suffering needs to be stopped. What can I do to change that? I need to do something to change that. And you go into that way. You focus on getting rid of suffering, not feeling the suffering. Yeah? Sometimes people think compassion is feeling the suffering of others. That's not a good way. Of course, and you have a little bit, but not focus on that. Compassion is not necessarily feeling yourself, but focus on getting rid or freeing people from suffering. That's compassion. So here, you are not too much thinking about, feeling when you are getting this, problems in the Tonglen. You are not feeling that suffering. You are not feeling pain all over your body, and all this. No, you are just purifying it. You are, you are taking away. You are feeling that everybody else has become free from suffering when you take on. There's two different things, no? When you take on this suffering of others in Tonglen, you can concentrate on yourself feeling the suffering of everybody, or you can concentrate on everybody becoming free of suffering. No? These are two things. You should not concentrate on feeling the suffering of everybody else. Not necessary. You have to concentrate on everybody else becoming free of their suffering. Is that not different? Yeah? That's what you have to do in Tonglen practice. Yeah? So it's working on. No. Okay. Yeah, 2, 3 here.
I have a short story about the use of Tonglen with a neighbor.
Okay.
The angry neighbor.
Okay.
We live 2 houses attached to each other and just a fence between the gardens. And this angry neighbor would come over and complain.
Okay.
You must not cut the grass when the news is going on. And
what's going on?
When the news is on the television.
Watching the TV.
Oh, I see.
But the thing that really made him angry was that we have some friends from Chile, and we played Latin American music on Sunday morning.
Okay.
And he came out bright red and said, you have to cut out that bloody bongo music. So I decided to do Tonglen on him.
Okay.
So in my house, of course, I just imagined all his poisonous black stuff coming over to me and gradually purified it, and until he was empty.
Okay.
In my head, he was empty of the anger, and just a couple of days later, I saw him bicycling down the road, whistling.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know. Obviously, he didn't feel anything, but I felt that I was free of being so upset by him.
Oh yeah.
Because I had done what I could, and I don't know, and he never bothered me again. So it was.
You are a great Tonglen practitioner. I would like to invite you if I have a bad neighbor also. There. So.
Rinpoche, I just wanted to ask about the fact that when you see on a country basis and personal basis, when you see some injustices done, it is on personal level also with individuals, when you see that it is not right, and then you get focused on it, and then you kind of try to solve, it doesn't get solved. And then you see that there's lots of suffering there, because you get so focused on it. And then you try to detach from it. You see a little bit from afar. But then the question of this cause and effect, karma, it comes in my head, wondering when will it come about the injustices done by the other part. When will the karma come on them, the cause and effect? And I have understood intellectually, but emotionally I can't understand. Why doesn't it come faster?
These things, I think, it's not exactly like, ping pong, no? It's like not immediately you do something and immediately, of course, some things happen like that also, Sometimes, you make an action and its reaction comes immediately. But sometimes, you do something and its reaction comes not necessarily just then. Its reaction comes a long time after, because that what is happening is also not necessarily a reaction of something happened just yesterday, but reaction or the result of something happened very long and with many complicated causes and conditions. Yeah? So it's not easy to exactly say when and how all these things come. But the understanding is that, the injustices happen, negative things happen, people do negative things all the time because of their negative emotions and negative reactions and things like that. And if, we should try our best that to bring more justice, to bring more, more positive things, and but as long as the samsara, we can't make everything perfect, at all, because this samsara is, samsara is samsara, If there is no injustice, then it's not samsara anymore. But for us, it's not to be detached. It's, we need to fight for injustice, for justice. We need to fight against injustice. We need to fight against, you can call it fight if you want, but, we need to work against injustice, against all negative things. But the understanding is trying to work or trying to fight against injustice, and you become yourself another unjust. Trying to get rid of atrocities, and you become another atrocity, then it's not good. So therefore, most of the time, people use anger. People use anger because anger is the easiest thing that happens. If you see something injustice happening, and then you don't like it, you get angry, and then you try to fight against that, and then you use the anger. And anger is a powerful thing. It gives you strength for a short while, but it is not, it's not considered as the best way to fight injustice, because with anger you create another injustice, or another negative action. Because when you're angry, you see this is the one who is doing bad things, and then you go and you beat him up, or you kill him, or you something, which is another negative action. Or you say something, or you do something, with anger, and then it's usually not solving the problem. It's actually aggravating the problem, because it becomes a fight, and then it's the fight becomes a war, and war becomes unending thing. It's both sides doing the same thing. So therefore, usually it is, from Buddhist point of view, you need to use compassion to work, to work against, to fight against injustice. Because you should concentrate on the issue, not on the personality. That's the Buddhist way of understanding. If this injustice or whatever happening, if it becomes anger, then it becomes personal. This person, these people are bad. I don't like them. I have to do something to harm them. That becomes the way, But if you become compassionate, then it becomes issue-based. This injustice should stop. It's not that I hate these people. These people are also suffering. And they have done negative things, but they also suffered lots of problems. So therefore, I'm not against these people. I am against this action. So therefore, I should try to stop this action of injustice, whoever is doing that, for the well-being of that person who is doing, or those people who are doing it, as well as those people who are suffering, or those person who is suffering. So when I have that understanding or attitude, then I will do it with compassion. So this is the idea from Buddhist point of view. Then it's not necessarily fighting, but trying to solve a situation, because focus is on the issue, not a personal enmity or anything like that. Trying to work on that. It doesn't necessarily mean that all issues will be solved, because lots of times things don't solve. But that's the time. Then we have to, if instead of myself becoming very kind of frustrated and bitter and angry and painful, I need to transform myself, and I need to be, even if I have to, I have had to go through problems and pain and injustice, and that doesn't mean that I cannot be, I cannot live meaningfully, I cannot live joyfully, I cannot live happily. I should concentrate on that. I should not think that I cannot live joyfully and happily and meaningfully if there is injustice in the world, or to the people, to my people, or to me. I need to work on that. I need to fight against it, but I need to also, live my life in a positive way. I think that's the idea, that's the understanding.
We often receive school classes here because they want to see what the Buddhist center is like, and talk about giving some information about Buddhism. And of course, very often the topic of karma and rebirth comes up. And you talked about karma as like having two parts, like there's the outward action and then there's the kind of reception part. And I think most people understand the first part of the karma, that what you do has some effects on your surroundings, that you harm people. I think everybody can see that, but the other part, I think many consider as some kind of Buddhist dogma. What is the connection between my actions and the universe coming together at some point in the future to kind of create the circumstances by which I will receive the result. And that's, I don't know, it's a bit difficult to understand. Do you have any explanation about that?
I think, this is, this unit, I think I see it like this, When I do a positive thing, then I do it, when I do a positive thing, that means I do it with a pure mind, yeah? Because the karma from Buddhism is more about mind than about body and speech. Body and speech has more effect on others, but mind is having more effect on myself. Yeah? So any action, when we're talking about action, we are taking action of body, speech, and mind. And that mind action is intentions, emotions, reactions, So with that, my mind action, I'm actually making my own future, I'm actually, what kind of a person I become depends on that mind action, no? So if I am like doing positive things or thinking positive, then I'm kind, compassionate, generous, am I more positive? That makes my next moment more positive. That makes my next year more positive. That makes me in my next life more positive. So I become more and more positive. If I do something more negative, angry, upset, all negative, then that affects my way of being. Yeah? So that, and basically the karma result is about that. I create my world for myself through my way of, because how I actually see my world is how I am. Yeah? The way I see the world is how I am. And how I am is created by myself, how I have been. Yeah? So therefore, it seems like, this is my favorite story. My favorite story,
It's the man who meets the yogi in the mountains. Right?
No, not yogi in mountains. My favorite story is, I have lots of favorite stories. But one of my favorite stories is the wise shepherd. Wise shepherd. Wise shepherd. Do you know the story? You don't know the story. How you can't know the story? Because I have told 100 times. maybe not here. There was a wise shepherd. This is coming from somewhere, I don't know, not from Buddhist sources. It's not coming from Buddhist sources that I know. It's coming from some Western sources, whether it's from Bible or from wherever, I don't know. There was this, wise shepherd, and he was looking after his sheep, on the path. And then one traveler came, and he looked down on the village in the valley and says, "Is this your village down there?" So shepherd said, "Yes, that's my village down there." Then the traveler said, "What kind of people live there?" He says, "Where do you come from, by the way?" He said, "I come from so-and-so village." And then again shepherd asked, "What kind of people live in your village?" He said, "Oh, they are terrible people. They are not, they are very, not generous. They are very miserly. They are very troublesome. They are very, quarrelsome. They are not kind. They are very bad people." And then the shepherd says, "Exactly same." Exactly same. So these people in my village are just like that in your village. So he went away. And then after 5 minutes, another person comes, traveler comes, and he asked the same question to this shepherd. "Is this your village?" "Yes." "What kind of people live there?" And again he asks, "Where you come from and what kind of people live in your village?" He says, "Oh, they are very nice people in my village. They are generous, they are kind, they are, they are gentle, very nice people." He says, "Exactly same." Exactly same. They are also very nice, very generous, very my village down there. So why did this shepherd, who is supposed to be wise shepherd, give totally two different information about his village to these two people? Yeah? This is my interpretation, that if that person who saw everybody in his village as bad, if he went to this village, he will find them as bad. And the other one who saw his village people nice, if he went to this village, he would also find them same way. Because it's not about how these village people are, it's about how you are. And this is something I can verify. I can verify this because I know lots of people, from all over the world. And they come to India or different places, and I can exactly say how they find, even before they arrive, because I know them, and it's exactly like that, So how you find people around you is so much to do with how you are, and that's what that's your karma, Your karma is how you are. That's your karma. Your habitual tendencies, your way of reacting, your you make your own self, like education in a way, and that's the karma, There's nothing called karma outside there, but that creates your environment. That creates how you see things. That creates how you, and that creates the world that's around you. So this is more karma than anything else, I think. Okay, thank you. I think we should stop here.